Hi folks, and welcome to Armoured Warfare, or at least the early access testing of Armoured Warfare. Now I need to say a great big thank you to the people over at my.com who very kindly let me have access to the game and this testing period, so I can basically show it off to you guys and let you know what I think. Now I do need to point out that I've only played a few hours. I only managed to catch the very end of the current testing phase, but it is starting up again very soon. So what you're going to see is some clips of the first few battles I've had, and here are a few of my thoughts on, well, basically my initial impressions on the game. But first off, I'd just like to say, isn't the internet a really small place? This was one of my first few games in Armoured Warfare, and just look who's on the enemy team already. It's Mr. Pointy-Haired Jedi. Now he's cruising around in a tier 3 tank, and this was my first introduction to the pretty harsh matchmaking that seems to be taking place down at tier 1 in Armoured Warfare. But I should point out that this is early access and everything is in testing, so little details like that I'm sure will change before the game goes live. Now, I don't have much experience in this game at all, and I haven't really been reading up about it. I've watched a few videos on YouTube and I've been following some stuff on the forums, but I haven't read up any tutorials or looked at any controls, and I'm very happy to say that if you've played World of Tanks, which I guess most of you will have done who are watching this, then you'll be able to jump into this, jump into a battle and pretty much get around and control everything absolutely fine. The controls are so familiar that you won't have a problem getting used to things here. There are changes in gameplay, and plenty of them, but that's by the by for now. I'm just trying to learn a few things, and of course I'm not familiar with the maps at all. Now I can say safely that Pointy-Haired Jedi doesn't kill me in this battle, so it's quite alright for me to recommend his channel, so do go and check it out. Although I guess that most of you people who are subscribed to me will also be subscribed to him, but if you're not, do go and have a look. Links in the description. Well worth watching. Now, the vehicle I am driving here is the M113. It's one of the two tier 1 tanks that you start the game with, and it's an armoured fighting vehicle, which in this game is basically a reconnaissance tank. They are lightly armoured and usually, at least in my experience of these tier 1s, lightly armed as well. This thing has an autocannon which can do damage to other armoured fighting vehicles and very lightly armoured things, but isn't going to be much use at all against main battle tanks. So at the moment I'm trying to find my way across this map without getting shot up. There's a big open void in the middle across that airstrip, which obviously I don't want to go driving about. I'm a reconnaissance tank. I want to stay hidden. And one thing that helps in that, if you can see the tank panel in the lower left corner of the screen, can you see that white bar? Well, that is your camo rating, and that changes depending on the location where you are on the map, whether you're hiding in bushes and whether you're moving. As you can see, it's not altering much, and that's because these armoured fighting vehicles designed for this, and I'm guessing they don't lose much of their camo bonus on the move and when driving about. Now, we've spotted some enemy over there, and yeah, this is my first encounter with the enemy. So we're just losing off some rounds. I'm trying to reverse to get out the way, but I'm not going to stand up to the firepower of tier 3 tanks, unfortunately. Now you might have noticed when that was taking place, my camo bar did drop right down to the bottom when I started shooting. So it's a pretty handy indicator of how well hidden you're likely to be. Okay, so that was one of my first experiences with the game. Now, let's see if we can play a little bit better. So, same tank again, and this is a different map. And one thing I really would point out here, a lot of the videos I've seen on YouTube do not do the graphics justice of this game. When you actually get to play it, it looks really, really nice. And I'm guessing that most YouTubers have had to turn the settings down on their video cards to be able to record, basically. I noticed I had to tweak the settings a little bit to get a decent frame rate in this over what I would normally have. So that might be why, but it really is a very pretty looking game so far, and as it's still in development, I'm guessing that's only going to get better. So we're playing our armoured fighting vehicle again. This time I'm going to be a lot more cautious, trying to use a bit of cover. Again, this is a map that I have no idea where to expect the enemy coming from. So well, that's my idea of being cautious, knocking trees over. So now we're looking through. Now one thing that helps these armoured fighting vehicles doing their recce roll is that if you are stationary, it increases your view range by I think 25%. So it's a bit like having equipment and stuff on the tank already, just to help with the job. And one other thing they can do, which helps a lot, is that you can mark an enemy target. You have to be within view range, I believe, but you can hold down the E key and this basically lights it up and designates it as a target, and whilst it's designated, you and the rest of your team all do increased damage against it. Now we've spotted an M60 Patton, which is a tier 3, I don't know whether it's a light tank or a main battle tank, but I decided to empty a clip of ammo at it because I know that my ammunition will not penetrate the tank's armour, but I wasn't sure if I could take tracks off and things like that, or whether they had any weak points on top, like commander's hatches, or I don't know, just something I thought I'd take a chance. So we've moved back out the way. There's not much I can do against the M60, and there's some other guys on there anyway, but there is a bit of action around here, which I might be able to get something off. Aha! It's an LAV 150. Now we can see we can get some shots into him. So you can see my cannon there, chewed him up quite nicely. I'm going to pull back for a reload. I'm not going to sit out there and get shot. And basically, the gameplay is pretty much what you'd expect. Use cover, use map awareness, and just play it like you would World of Tanks, basically. Now, the gameplay isn't exactly the same as World of Tanks. There's a lot of different features in it. And I think that's a good thing, because I'd hate to see the two games just follow the exact same course, and if one puts a good idea in, then the other just copies it instantly. But I like that the fact that everything feels familiar and similar enough that you can just get on and play it if you've got experience of World of Tanks already. So we've spotted another nasty looking tank over there. See him puts a shot into me. Well, I knew he was reloading, so I thought I'd fire a few shots back rather, and they clearly didn't do anything at all. So basically in this, I think I'm pretty much limited to spotting those guys and shooting up the lightly armed stuff. But it's quite difficult knowing when you've been spotted. I mean, you see the outline of the tank, but you can't always tell when it's looking at you. At least I can't. Perhaps with more experience of the game, that will come a bit easier. Nice rubber tree there. Ah, now that fellow, I think we can get some shots into him. Stocks, come on, filling full of ammo. Yeah. It's taken out. Just pull back to reload. So with a tier 1 tank in a tier 3 game, I think that's pretty much what I've got to do. Be careful and be cautious. Now I haven't had long to play this, as I've said, so I haven't progressed beyond tier 2 so far. You're going to see one of my tier 2 tanks coming up shortly, and that's where the game really gets going, in my opinion. Certainly with the Scorpion, it's an awfully lot more interesting to play than these tier 1s. Not that these are bad, it's just that with the current matchmaking they are a little bit painful to play. There's another pattern. Yes it is. Okay, well, I'm not going to do anything to him. And of course, with me not knowing the maps, I don't know where there's any safe cover to go and where the enemy are likely to be, so I can't really find any good flanking positions, and because it's so easy to get spotted and taken out, I'm just hanging around here at the back, really, being careful. Just moving up now, we can see that pattern through there. Now, I know I can't penetrate him, but I don't know if I can't take his tracks off, so I'm going to have to go at that. Now, it says module hit when I was shooting him. Now, it does very usefully just tell you under the gun reticle whether you've hit, whether you've penetrated, or whether you've hit a module. So, it gives you some sort of idea. Now, I think I might have helped take his tracks off there. Could be completely mistaken, it could have been somebody else. But, we'll play with that. Now, where's he looking? I can't tell where he's looking at all. I'm looking for weak spots. And obviously he was looking at me, because he takes me out there. Or maybe it wasn't him, maybe it was a T-62 somewhere else. Anyway, let's get into the next game. This is the other tier 1 tank, the PT-76. This is actually a light tank. It's a very strange looking thing, but light tanks in this, they're not the reconnaissance vehicles, that's for the armoured fighting vehicles role. These are actually just slightly more lightly armoured and lightly armed main tanks, I suppose. Tend to be a bit quicker, I think, as well. So this one actually has a proper tank gun on with some decent penetration. However, going up against tier 3s, I don't think that's quite an even matchup. But we're going to get to try this out anyway. And I don't have the ability on this one to light up or mark or designate the enemy targets. This is purely just good old tank fighting sort of tank. So I'm following some of the rest of the team at the moment. Again, this is a map that I've got no experience of, so we don't know where the enemy are going to pop up. We've got viewings all over the map. Now, can we get some shots on anything? That's the question. One thing I have noticed with this tank is that the gun depression is absolutely awful on it, so it makes it a bit of a challenge shooting anything below you. Ooh, spotted an LAV 150 over there. And an M113, there he is. Ooh, can I get a shot to him? Yep, thank you very much. 225 damage. So at this point I thought, ooh, this looks like a pretty good position. We'll just let those enemy vehicles come out from amongst the buildings and I'll get some free shots off. Maybe even hidden and remain unspotted as well. But that wasn't to be, as that LAV 150 comes out and starts filling me full of lead. Now, I didn't take as much damage as I would have done in the M113, but you can see there that the armour didn't really hold up even to that sort of gun. So, but then this is a tier 1 tank, don't forget. It's just for having fun and learning the gaming. And it's again struggling with gun depression there, just trying to get poked over the hill so I can shoot at something.
Identify.
Oh, spotted something down there. It's an enemy tank. It is. It's one of me. It's a PT-76. Well, I can definitely penetrate him. Now at that point, I think I was hammering the E key trying to designate him, and then I realised that I couldn't do that in this tank. So we put a shot into him. He fires back at me, but misses. Can we get another one in? That looked like it went in. Oh, something hit me, so I'll just pull back out the way. And this type of tank, this pretty much feels as you'd expect. That's the type of play style that you'd have from light tanks. So looking at the garage, you can see this instantly looks fairly familiar, and this is actually the upgrade screen or the tech tree for the vehicle, and it works a little bit differently. Quite often you'll just research some basic upgrades that make it better rather than have a rubbish thing at the start. I mean, you'll research new ammunition, for example, or some shock absorbers, or something that just helps with the view range, things like that, or things that help with the gun sight. So it's quite simple and easy to use and work out, and you can see which things are worth upgrading to and which you maybe want to hold off on a little bit. Now, they don't have nations or tech trees for the nations in the game, they have dealers. At the moment there's 2 arms dealers in the game, and these are the vehicles available from one of them, and this is the other. So it's quite good. Basically it's set up like you're not fighting for a particular nation. I believe you're just supposed to be a mercenary group. So you can take any vehicle of any type into any game and just work through the arms dealers. You're not kind of trapped into stereotypes of nations like you might be in other games, and not just World of Tanks, but thinking like War Thunder, where if you just tried going up the German tanks or the German aircraft or whatever. So there's nice variety in both of the dealerships at the moment. Now this is the Scorpion. This is the tier 2 tank I've got, and this is a huge change up from the tier 1s. It's so much fun, and it starts to feel like a real tank, although it is only an armoured fighting vehicle. So it's got paper thin armour. However, the gun on it is a 76mm, I think it is, but it's a high explosive lobbing gun. Now that doesn't do an awful lot of damage against higher tier vehicles or well armoured vehicles, but it does some damage, and it's just, well, it's loads of fun to use. And not only that, but the tank's nice and fast and manoeuvrable. So you can see it was my first shot. Enemy over there. Couldn't quite catch him. Another good thing about this tank is that it has pretty decent gun depression as well. So you can get into positions and you can start to feel like you're fighting in a tank. And I really like this one. But from the YouTube videos I've watched, I gather that this is thought of as a very, very good tier 2 tank indeed. So maybe we're just being spoilt a little bit. So we're just poking over this ridge, trying to get some shots off. There's a pattern again. So we're still fighting against tier 3 tanks here. Doing 58 damage to him out of his 1300 hit point pool isn't going to really worry him that much. But we can just tick away, doing shot after shot. And for a tier 2 tank against something like that, I'm quite happy with it. Also notice I've marked him and designated him, so he can take increased damage from anyone else who shoots at him. So they've pulled back from that position. I can use this tank's mobility just to get around a bit more. Everything you see on the screen is very familiar to World of Tanks players. You've got the team lists up in the top left and top right, the team scores up in the middle, the timer, and of course you've got the tank panel at the bottom left and the mini-map at the bottom right. Just below that, in the centre of the screen, you've got the ammo types and any consumables that may be fitted to the tank. At the moment I've only got one ammo type loaded into this tank, but there are 3 available I've researched. However, this one just looks like the plain out best of the 3, so I went with that. But I do like the way you can research different ammo types in some of the vehicles, and then it's not always the case that one ammo type is just straightforward better than the others, so it gives you quite nice options on your loadout that you might want to take, depending on what you're going to meet in the games. And I think it's always just a nice feature to have that flexibility. I'm taking a bit of fire from that AMX 10P over there. He's shooting me with some sort of auto cannon thing, so I'll pull back. See all the dust getting kicked up from the tracks. I actually grew up on a military training area where these things used to ride around, and yeah, it's pretty realistic. So let's get moved in a bit closer and get some shots on these guys. Looks like our team are moving up. I'm always trying to be careful, trying to stay as hull down as possible, because I'm sure that anything would take the delight in shooting at me, being a lightly armoured tier 2 tank. Let's move in. M60 Patton, he's just been taken out. And let's put our foot to the floor and get some speed up. Now, so far, I really like the look of the maps that I've seen. They look very pretty. There's lots of features on them. They don't seem to be made into corridor type maps where there's only a couple of avenues of attack. Nice and open. I think they're quite good. Of course, I haven't seen many. I'm sure there'll be more to come in later testing periods. So do stay tuned and I'll give you my verdict on those. I think the next testing period is due to start on the 10th of June, so I'll definitely be getting involved in that and playing some more.
Identify target.
So let's bring this tank up into the town. Now, when you spot something, your crew members do very conveniently shout out, so you know that you've spotted something, and you get the little indicator just above the gun reticle just to say whereabouts it was. So you know what you're looking at, you know what's just been made obvious on the map. Aha, it's a PT-76, it's a tier 1, let's get him. Missed with the first shot. Come on, HE rounds. What have we got here? Oh, it's another Scorpion. Let's say hello. So we put a nice shot into him. Is he on fire? Took a lot of damage there. Took him out with the second shot. There's that PT-76. This is getting a bit close now. Put a nice hit into him. That looked like it penetrated. 226 damage. Now, just need to be careful here because his gun can be dangerous. Don't want to get killed. Yeah, take him out. Generally the best bet with anything when you get into a close fight with that is just keep moving. Try and make it harder for anyone to hit you. But if you get into a close fight with something like an M60 Patton or a T62, the best bet is to turn away and run off. And hopefully get out of range before he manages to take you out. So folks, if you fancy getting involved in Armoured Warfare, I'll put a couple of links into the description that will take you over to their website, and also the web page that allows you to buy one of the Founders Packs. Now the Founders Packs, they're like pre-order packs. You'll get some in-game benefits, but you'll also get instant access into the early testing as well, and all the tests leading up to open beta. So if you're absolutely desperate to get into it, then go ahead. And it's looking pretty good so far. It doesn't have the historical tanks in that really interest me more, but then it made me realise I don't know very much at all about modern day tanks because I just haven't read up on them. So maybe it's going to open another avenue of interest for me. Anyway, the game itself is looking pretty good, the gameplay is pretty tidy, and I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on how this one develops. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments if you want to see more of it, and let me know if you've already bought in and what you think of the game. So, thanks very much for watching, and do stay tuned for more, and I'm looking forward to playing more Armoured Warfare.